So thank you for joining us today for our training on educational options, what's available in Mississippi. So as many of you may be aware, the options for for the different types of educational placements in our state has been changing over the last several years, and we do have more options than we used to. And so we just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of the different options that are available in our state. And so we will get started. So what we hope you will learn in this training is that the variety of educational options that are available in Mississippi and what those all are, and a little bit about the scholarships that are available for students with disabilities and how to apply for each one. We won't go into detail about those. We are working right now. There's 3 scholarships in our state, and they are for students who have disabilities. They have to be diagnosed with certain conditions to get, and we'll go over that. But the State Department of Education administers each one of those scholarships. So what we are hoping to do is in the coming months is have someone from the Department of Education who's actually involved in the day-to-day working with those scholarships to present, so that we can, if people have questions, or they can give more detail on exactly how they administer those scholarships. So there are 8 options actually. Well, the scholarship program, like I said, has 3. There's 3 different scholarships, but these are the options. There's traditional public, and we'll go into each one of these. There's traditional public school. There are special state schools. There are magnet schools, charter schools, private schools, homeschool, virtual schools, and then those scholarship programs that I mentioned earlier are also an option in our state. So, like I said, we'll look at each one of those different options and kind of lay out how each one is designed, and how they're structured, and there's certain qualifications for some of them, and so we'll talk about that. But anyway, so in our state we have, of course, most students, the majority of students are in traditional public school. There's 855 public schools in Mississippi that serve students based on where they live. So those are, it would be whatever geographical area that you live in is how, it determines what school you attend. They're funded through tax dollars. They are tuition free. They're overseen by a local school district and a school board. So that's the governance of those, the traditional public schools. You can request a transfer, but if you do from one public school district to another public school district, but if you do request a transfer, those are granted sometimes, but if you request a transfer, it has to be approved by both school boards. So it has to be, because of how it's funded. It's funded through those tax dollars, and so the public school that you're leaving has to agree to release you. That's usually not an issue. The public school district that you're transferring to has to agree to accept your child, because again, it's tuition free, and so they are agreeing to take on the financial responsibility with no really tax dollars to back that up once they approve that transfer. And typically those transfers are year to year. One of the issues I will tell you that we've run into when we've been helping parents who have students with disabilities in the past is they will get a transfer, it'll get approved, and then they get in the new district. Those transfers, like I said, are again, I may have said this already, but they're year to year, so they have to be approved each year. And we've had situations where the parents got a transfer, and then there was something they needed to advocate for their child about, and once they started trying to get something changed, then their transfer didn't get approved the next year, and so that can become an issue. That's just something to know if you're looking at that. The next option in our state is are the state, the special state schools. Now there's 4 of those, and again, those have they focus on certain disciplines, or you see that second bullet point, or certain student needs. They are tax funded and they're also tuition free, but I believe all 4 of these schools have a residential component, and if the student is staying there is residential because they live too far from the school, then there may be some fees for room and board. But so there's 4 of these special state schools in the state: the Mississippi School for the Arts, the Mississippi School for Math and Science, the Mississippi School for the Blind, and the Mississippi School for the Deaf. Now, the Mississippi School for the Blind and the Mississippi School for the Deaf are both in Jackson. The Mississippi School for Math and Science, I believe, is in either Starkville or Columbus. Somebody who's on may know that. And then the Mississippi School for the Arts is in Brookhaven, Mississippi. And so, and each one of these schools has specific criteria for entrance into those schools. So you have to be accepted. You have to meet their criteria because they're all there for a specific purpose. That's why they call them special schools. So, and then the next option in our state is magnet schools. And so those actually are within public school districts, but they are a school that is there for, it has a specific theme or academic focus. Some of them may be focused on the arts, some of them may be focused on science. And so we have 26 public schools in our state that are designated as magnet schools. Those are also tax funded and tuition free. Most of the time you have to apply or audition or opt in to go to the magnet school. The students that attend those magnet schools are typically students that are within the district where the magnet school is located. That's usually the only students that can apply. So like you wouldn't be able to, if there was a magnet school in DeSoto County School District, but you lived in, Lafayette County, you would probably not be able to apply to attend that magnet school. You would have to reside within that school district. And it's usually based on available seats or some kind of specific admissions criteria. Charter schools. We have 7 independent. These are independent public schools. If any of you have followed the sort of the charter school movement over the last several years, you know that it's been a big push in our state to get charter schools, and they did, and we now have 7 independent public schools that are considered charter schools. Each one of these charter schools is authorized by the Mississippi Charter Authorizer Board. There is a separate board. They aren't authorized by our State Board of Education. There's a Mississippi Charter Authorizer Board that authorizes those schools. They are tax funded as well, and they're tuition free. They're open to students who reside within the district where the charter school is located or nearby. If you're coming from a nearby district, it has to be a C, D, or F rated district. So if you just say you're in a neighboring district, I know there are charter schools in Hinds County. If you were in Jackson Public Schools, which is a separate school district, even though it's in Hinds County, but and they were rated, and I have no idea. I haven't looked at the ratings. I don't know what Jackson Public is rated, so I'm not saying they're rated C, D, or F, but if they were, then you could choose, and there is a charter school in a neighboring district, which Hinds County would be considered, then you could choose that option would be open to your child as well. They are overseen by independent boards. So each charter school has their own independent board, and the seats are supposed to be filled by lottery. But also, one of the things that we were concerned about when the charter schools first got authorized in our state is that they were only going to try to take the best and the brightest. But one of the things that our state did that hopefully keeps that from happening is that in the charter school law, it states that the charter school enrollment has to reflect the demographics of the school district. So in other words, if 10% of the students in the public school district where the charter school is located, if 10% of those students have disabilities, then 10% of the students in the charter school should have a disability. If 40% of the students are African American, then 40% of the students in the charter school should be African American. So again, the demographics should reflect, or at least closely resemble, what the public school, where the charter school resides, the public school demographics. So hopefully the thinking is that would keep that from happening for them, saying, not accepting enough students with disabilities, not accepting enough students of color. So, and then the next option in our state is private schools. There's 207 independent schools in our state that are run by private organizations or individuals. So, hang on one second. I have a little bit of noise at my house, so I'm closing my door. Working from home today. So these schools are private. They typically charge tuition. There may be a few private schools in the state that have funding, some other way, and they are able to not charge tuition, but typically they do. There are the state scholarship programs for students with special needs that may help with tuition and or other educational expenses, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But so you can use some of those state scholarships those special needs scholarships that we'll talk about in a little bit to help with the tuition. These private schools may also be virtual schools or provide distance learning through correspondence. So those are the private schools. And then we also, of course, parents also always have the option. It is an educational option because that's what this webinar is about. The parents also always have the option to homeschool their children. So homeschool is home-based instruction for students who are not enrolled full-time in a traditional school. That could be any kind of traditional school. It could be a private school, but if they're not enrolled full-time in a traditional school, they're not subject to state curriculum or testing requirements. They do, however, in our state, they still have to submit a certificate of enrollment to their local school district annually, to show them that they are in fact homeschooling their child. I think what different districts require varies from district to district, but some districts do require you to tell them what curriculum you're using. Some don't, but they just want to make sure that you're in some kind of, structured program, I think, and that kids aren't, that families aren't just saying, oh, we're homeschooling our children, and they're just sitting at home and not receiving any kind of education. It can also include online programs, homeschool groups, or classes at a traditional school. They may be taken, because see, that first bullet point says they're not enrolled full time in a traditional school, but they may be taking some classes at a traditional school, maybe participating in some extracurricular stuff, or taking a couple of classes, but then they're doing, the rest of their classes as part of a homeschool curriculum. So it could be sort of a hybrid thing as well. And then there are virtual schools. Now, when we say virtual schools, we're not talking about the way things have been during the pandemic where schools have had to pivot to virtual. We're talking about where students engage in a full-time K through 12 education program online It can be public or private, and it's available to students in many different educational settings. So they could be homeschooled. They, you know, you, I'm trying to think if that would be, because if you're engaged full time, I guess there could be some private programs that all of their students do virtual school, and that is the way they provide the education, and they could still be in that full time educational program online. But one thing you need to know is that Mississippi has no full time virtual public or charter schools at this time. So there, through the State Department of Education, there are certain classes you can take virtually, but there is no full-time K through 12 virtual school in our state. However, there are other states that offer classes to out-of-state students. So if this was an option that you chose for your child, then you could do virtual school. You would have to do it through another state that offers classes to out-of-state students. So does anybody have any questions up to this point? Now, I do see somebody comment that they would like more information on the ESA. So I will go back and address that. But so it looks like, based on my time, I'm going to have plenty of time for questions. So I'll cover these scholarship programs, and then I'll attempt to answer questions. If anybody has a question that I don't know the answer to, we will find the answer for you and get back with you. So there are three, like I said at the beginning, there are three scholarship programs in our state that enable state tax dollars to follow students to a private school setting. And the three programs are the Education Scholarship Account, or most people just refer to it as ESA, the Dyslexia Therapy Scholarship, and then the Speech Language Therapy Scholarship. And one of the things that I meant to do at the beginning was to upload some documents about each one of these, and I will do that. I will pause in just when I get to the end of the presentation while you're having time to think about your questions, and I will upload those documents so you can save them if you want to. But so the Education Scholarship Account is designed to give parents with special needs children the option of withdrawing their child from public school and receiving a designated amount to help with the cost of private school tuition or other specific allowable activities to educate their child. The Mississippi Department of Education administers the program. You will, one of the documents that I'll upload in just a minute is this, a copy of this slide presentation, and once it'll be a PDF document, and you should be able to, this link at the bottom of this slide, you should be able to, from that PDF document, click on that link and it'll take you straight to the page on the Department of Education's website where it has all the information about the ESA. So in order to have an ESA scholarship, or to I can't think of my word, to access that scholarship, the student must have an active individualized education program, or an IEP, within 3 years from the date of that you apply for the scholarship. You must withdraw your student from public school if you are approved, which what that means for students with disabilities is if you are enrolled in public school, you're under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, your child is entitled to a free, appropriate public education in their least restrictive environment that's designed to meet their individual needs. Once you withdraw your child from public school, you no longer are entitled to a free, appropriate public education. Now, I will tell you that many times I mean, that sounds a little bit scary, like, okay, I'm giving up some of my rights. And essentially you are, and we make sure parents understand that if they ask us about how this all works. But I will tell you that we have also talked with many, many families who are utilizing this ESA, and their children are faring much better in private school, even though they don't have that assurance that to have a free appropriate public education, their parents feel like they're getting a more appropriate education. But that is something that you need to be aware of. The school that you enroll your child in must provide an organized, appropriate educational program. And they can, if you are participating in the ESA, you cannot participate in one of the other two scholarship programs. So basically, you just can't double dip. So that's the ESA. And then the next one is the dyslexia therapy scholarship. This is an option for students diagnosed with dyslexia to attend a public school other than the one to which they are assigned based on based on where they live. It funds students to attend special purpose non-public school, to attend a special purpose non-public school that offers Orton Gillingham based instruction. And that's really important. It has to be Orton Gillingham based instruction before it would qualify for one of these scholarships. And it has that instruction has to be provided by a licensed dyslexia therapist 5 days a week. So in other words, they can't just have a dyslexia therapist that comes to the school, 2 days a week or 3 days a week. It has to be 5 days a week. It redistributes public school funds from the public school to the special purpose non-public school that the family selects. And again, the Mississippi Department of Education administers this program. So it has to be a special purpose non-public school that is approved to accept students with dyslexia therapy with this dyslexia therapy scholarship. The schools that are currently approved according to the information on the Department of Education's website is Magnolia Speech School in Jackson, Mississippi, New Summit School in Jackson. Now, I know many of you have probably seen things on the news about that particular school around a lawsuit that's happening right now, and no one really knows the future of that school. Of course, the families who have children attending there are hoping that they can figure out a way to keep it open, but we're not sure. But that I'm telling you what's still listed on the Department of Education's website. And then the North New Summit, and it's in Greenwood, that may be under the same, that may also be at risk of not being open this next coming school year. We're not sure. And then the Petal 3D School, which was specifically formed for dyslexia. And then they also have a Gulf Coast 3D School in Ocean Springs. And then the Oxford University, excuse me, school in Oxford, Mississippi. Those are the schools that are approved. So if you utilize the dyslexia therapy scholarship, it would have to be at one of these schools. Sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. I had to get a drink. And then there's the third scholarship is the Nate Rogers Speech Language Therapy Scholarship. Excuse me. It's for students in K through 6th grades with an eligibility ruling of speech language impairment through grade 6 or its equivalent, so age 11. So if the child is not in their grade equivalent, it would be up to age 11. So they have to be, I guess, under the age of 11 on September 1st. It provides a scholarship to attend a school with a speech language program. And this one's also administered by the Department of Education. So in order to access this scholarship, you must have spent the previous school year in attendance at a Mississippi public school or any other state accredited non-public special purpose school in the state. You have to have obtained acceptance for admission of the student to the non-public school that you're going to be going to. So in other words, you have to have already been accepted into the non-public school, and and you have to request a scholarship. Um, and they also, with this one, they can't be participating in one of the other scholarship programs. That may be true for all three of these, because like I said, really for the double dipping kind of thing. So now I will look at our questions. So let me look at the questions at this time and see if I can answer them. This person is saying, I'd like more information on ESA. My son was accepted last year, but because he was not enrolled in an accredited in-person private school, I was told he didn't qualify to use any funds. Is there any steps I can take to work on this issue? There's not an accredited in-person private school near us that would be able to provide services for him with autism, so I'm working with him at home. I have a current Mississippi teaching license with advanced autism training. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's kind of a tough situation. Because, yeah, I'm thinking that would be considered homeschool. And with the ESA, when they passed the ESA law, they specifically carved out homeschool students. And it's my understanding that the reason was that the Homeschool Association asked them to do so. I'm not sure why, but so that may be a problem because they do have to be in an accredited school, I think. And so, hmm, we may want to have more conversation about that. And then somebody was saying that they're pretty positive that the Oxford University school has shut down permanently. Okay. They're still listed on the Department of Ed's website, but that again, they may have just not updated that list for this coming school year because I know that there's some issues with the new Summit School as well. Someone asked, with the Nate Rogers Scholarship, can you attend any school? I think it has to be a school that has a, let me go back to that slide. I think it has to be, a school that has a speech language program. So the two schools in the state that I know that probably accept students under this scholarship or that would qualify under this scholarship program. Now there may be more, but these are two that I feel like they would surely qualify. Would be the DeBard School for Children with Language Disorders at USM, the University of Southern Mississippi, and then Magnolia Speech School in Jackson because they do have a speech language program. And both of those schools, unless something's changed, they use a method called the association method, but they are speech language schools. And so, yeah, no, I don't think you, according to this information, I don't think you would be able to attend just any school. I think it has to be a school that has a speech language program. Now, if you're able to show that, I'm not sure. When I send you the information, there will be that link to the Department of Education's page on that, and maybe there's an answer there because I know that I wanted to go ahead and skip to these next couple of slides, and then you guys can be typing in any additional questions you have or follow up from if I didn't answer those questions appropriately or well enough. This is our parent trainings and information center team. I didn't talk about it at the beginning of the webinar, but these trainings that we do are through a grant that the Coalition for Citizens with Disabilities. I'm the executive director of the coalition and of the Parent Training and Information Center. So the Coalition for Disabilities in 2000, 6, we wrote for a grant. Our organization's a statewide nonprofit. We wrote for a grant from the U.S. Department of Education to fund a parent training center so that we could provide training and information and support to parents who have children with disabilities across the state. And this is our team. I'm the executive director. Leslie Junkin directs this specific project. Mickey Alford's our office manager. Brittany Greer is our project support coordinator. So those of you who are on our Facebook page and see all our social media stuff, she does all that. And then we have 3 parent educators. And actually, I need to update this slide because since this slide was done, Holly Hood has left us. She moved on to a different job. And so we actually soon will be posting the position for a parent educator for her position. But so Jennifer Johnson and Nellie Alliston are our parent educators right now. They actually help educate parents on a one-on-one basis, and they can attend meetings with them if needed. And so they work with parents one-on-one to work through issues that they may be having with schools. You can find us on social media. We are very active on social media, especially on Facebook. And I think every time we post on Facebook, it also gets posted to Twitter and Instagram. I think those are all tied together. Don't hold me to that, but Facebook is where I know lots of great information gets posted. And this is our contact information. So just wanted to make sure you had that. And so I don't see, oh gosh, I just realized that I wasn't sharing my screen. My screen was paused. I apologize for that. So I'm going to go back so you guys can see. All right, I was on that slide. This is our team that I talked about, but again, Holly is no longer with us. She was great, and we really are sorry we lost her, but this is our team. And then this is find us on social media. I'm not sure if when I send you they're in the PDF document, you may be able to click and it may take you to the pages. I'm not positive if I've linked those. And then this is our contact information. So I apologize that the slides weren't moving. So I just thank you for being with us today. At this time, I'm going to pause the recording, but anyone who wants to stay with us, I will navigate you to a couple of places on the web. So